So we now know that there were several reasons why this Constitutional Convention got together, but most notably, Shays' Rebellion was kind of the biggest reason, and it stirred up a lot of concern in the states. So, on May 25th, 1787, the Constitutional Convention met for the first time. Their main purpose was to revise the Articles of Confederation. Not totally get rid of them, but instead revise the Articles of Confederation and change the government of the United States. Their first action at this convention was to elect George Washington the President of the Convention. Not the President of the United States, the President of the Convention. They needed someone to lead the discussions, and George Washington was the person to do so. There were several members of the Constitutional Convention, and this included 55 different individuals or delegates from 12 states. You're saying, why 12 and not all 13? Well, Rhode Island boycotted the meeting as it was the home of the otherwise minded, which means that they did not believe in a central government, and they believed in state identity and state sovereignty. So they did not even attend because they didn't want a federal government in the first place. Some notable names that were missing included John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, as they were representing the United States and Great Britain and France. Other individuals, such as like Samuel Adams, that we talked a lot about during our Revolutionary unit, he would not go once again because he did not want a large federal government. That's why the states broke away from Great Britain in the first place, because their federal government was too large. Most delegates brought great experience to the meeting. This was a meeting of very highly intellectual individuals, and 2/3 of them were lawyers, and most served in their own state legislatures. So they had great experience. Kind of the main figure of the Constitutional Convention is going to have the nickname the Father of the Constitution. That's going to be James Madison. The main reason he is going to be given the name the Father of the Constitution was because he was well prepared to lead the discussion at the convention. Okay, he was at the forefront of conversations. He was the person that people would turn to for questions. He was very well prepared and well organized to lead very important discussions. He's going to speak numerous times at very important parts of the convention, and he's also going to take extremely detailed notes. Over 600 pages worth. And I know how much you guys love taking notes, but just imagine taking over 600 pages worth of notes. And actually from this, historians pretty much know exactly what happened during these meetings, which is very important. Here's a picture of James Madison, known as the Father of the Constitution. Now at this convention, there was a rule of secrecy. Delegates wanted to be able to speak their mind without causing harm or opposition among the general public. They didn't really want the public to kind of create rumors and think of bad things about a big government or something like that. So they all agreed to keep the information secret. And delegates took this very seriously, and word never got out about this. This was something only the 55 delegates in the room knew about. Among these different delegates, they were all committed to the ideals of the Declaration of Independence. So we talked a little bit about the ideals, but essentially what these are is this going to be life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, along with the vision of equality. All states had some sort of government at this time, and delegates were very familiar with how to run and the problems that occurred with different types of government. So many of them are going to agree upon the vision of a government of the people, by the people. But they didn't agree exactly how to do this. Their most troubling question is going to be, how big should the national government be? Should all states be closely aligned with each other? Should they be loosely organized? This is something that is going to be debated heavily at the Constitution. Here's possibly an image of what the convention would look like. Obviously, this is an illustration, but it's going to be held in the same exact room in Philadelphia where our founding fathers decided to vote for independence. So it's the same room that you saw in the John Adams clip. The biggest question they probably answered was, how should states be represented? And actually, after some discussion, the convention talked and they actually decided to throw out the Articles of Confederation. So essentially what they're going to be doing is starting from scratch and rebuilding an entire new constitution. So they're now dealt with this huge entire task of creating a new government, essentially. Their key issue was going to be, should the government's power to rule come from the states, or should it come from the people? The Articles of Confederation stated that the power to rule should be from the states. James Madison thought it should come directly from the people. So as you can see, this is going to be a hot topic at the Constitutional Convention. From this idea, there's going to be two plans that are formulated. The first one being called the Virginia Plan. And this was drafted by James Madison. What this is going to do is this going to call for a strong national government with three branches or parts, essentially. The first branch would be the legislative branch, which would make the laws. The second branch would be the executive branch that would carry out the laws. The third branch would be the judicial branch that would apply and interpret the laws. Congress would also be made up of two houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate, and the number of lawmakers would depend on the state's population. That's the most important aspect, the state's population here. Obviously, if representatives depend on population, the larger states are going to like the Virginia Plan because it's going to give larger states more power because of their larger population. So this is kind of what I mean by the three branches of government here. You see the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. This was in the Virginia Plan. And then also we're talking about this, the representatives in the Virginia Plan are going to be represented by state population. So Virginia would love this because they would get the most representatives. Pennsylvania would also like this a lot because they would get a lot of representatives along with Massachusetts. So the larger states like the Virginia Plan because they would be represented based on how many people they had on their state. So the second plan is going to be called the New Jersey Plan. And the small states obviously are going to dislike the Virginia Plan because they're going to feel like they're not going to have any say in the decisions that are made. Both the New Jersey Plan and the Virginia Plan are going to call for a government of three branches. So exactly what you're seeing in this image here. The New Jersey Plan is going to call for the same exact thing. Three branches of government: legislative, executive, and judicial. The legislative branch, this is how it's different from the Virginia Plan. It's only going to have one house, not two. So the Virginia Plan called for a House of Representatives and the Senate. New Jersey is going to call for only one house in the legislative branch. New Jersey Plan is also going to say that each state would have an equal vote in Congress, no matter how big or how small. Some argued that this would keep states from being swallowed up by their more populous neighbors. So if we look back at the population map here, in the Virginia Plan it states that states like Virginia and Pennsylvania are going to get more representatives because they have a bigger population. New Jersey Plan is essentially going to say it doesn't matter your population. Each state is going to get an equal number of representatives. Population does not matter. This is going to be debated at the Constitutional Convention.